Sairam students, hope you all are doing fine. Rhythm is here again. We'll go ahead with our next lesson. Second part of the next lesson, rather to say. Because the first part of this lesson was done by Ruchita Miss. Yes, the sun, the moon and the earth. The second lesson of geography. Okay. Now what did we learn in our first part? In our first part, we learned about the moon's motions, the moon's position, that is the apogee and the perigee, the phases of the moon. What are we going to learn in our next lesson, in this next part? Yes, before that, have a look at this picture. Yes, we can see a shadow on the ground on this picture, right? Now, how is this shadow formed? Yes, a shadow is formed when an opaque object blocks the path of light, isn't it? Now, even you must have experienced you must have seen your own shadow falling on the ground when you're walking on the road, or even in your house also. Yes, when the lights are switched on at night, you can see your shadow falling on the walls. You must have done so many play doing all the shadow work on the shadow art, rather say, on the walls. Yes, so that is happens when an opaque object comes in the path of light. Now you must be wondering why Mrs. is telling us about shadow. I am telling you this because such shadows also formed. Such shadows also fall on the earth and they also fall on the sun. Now who does this? Yes, it is how does this? What is it called? All this. Yes. Similarly, we can see the moon's shadow falling on the earth and the earth's shadow falling on the moon. How does this happen? When does this happen? And what is it called? First, we'll answer the last question. What is it called? Yes. What is it called? It is called as an eclipse. It is called as an eclipse. The moon's revolutionary orbit makes an angle of 5 degrees with that of the earth. The moon intersects the earth's orbit twice during one revolution. On a new moon day, the lines joining the sun, the moon and the earth make an angle of 0 degrees, whereas on a full moon day, it is 180 degrees. But the sun, the moon and the earth may not be in the same plane on every new moon or full moon day. Therefore, eclipses do not occur on every new moon or full moon day. Confusing? Yes, I'll make it clear for you. Fine. Now, first, new moon day, full moon day. Yes, what is new moon day called? New moon day is called as Amavasya when you do not see the moon in the sky. And what is the full moon day called? Purnima. It is when you see big round Chandamama in the sky, the moon in the sky. Yes, children call him Chandamama, Chandamama also, right? Fine. Now, what does this moon do? Yes, the moon revolves around the earth, isn't it? The earth rotates around itself. At the same time, it is revolving around the sun. Fine. Now, in this rotation, in this revolution of the moon, the sun, of the moon and the earth, these three come in a straight line. Yes. But though they come in a straight line, they may not be in the same plane. What happens is when the moon's revolutionary orbit, it makes an angle of 5 degrees with that of the earth. Okay. Now the moon intersects the earth's orbit twice during one revolution. It takes how many days does it take to complete one revolution? It takes 28 days to complete one revolution. Yes. So within this period of 28 days of one revolution, you have the full moon day and the new moon day. So that is the time when it intersects the earth's orbit. So on a new moon day, the lines joining the sun, the moon and the earth make an angle of 0 degrees, as whereas on a full moon day, it makes an angle of 180 degrees. But it is not necessary that on every full moon day and new moon day, they may be in the same plane. Yes. So therefore, we do not find these eclipses occurring every month, every new moon or full moon day. Now see this month only in the beginning of the month on the 5th of June. It was a full moon day. Yes. It was many ladies celebrated it as Vatta Purnima, and there was a lunar eclipse. Though it was not visible over here, we couldn't see it, but there was a lunar eclipse. Now, this lunar eclipse took place on the full moon day, isn't it? Whereas on the 21st, recently only 21st of June, we had the new moon day, whereas we had the solar eclipse on that day, isn't it, children? Yes, so that was the Amavasya, 21st of June. So in 1 month, we had both the eclipses, the lunar eclipse as well as the solar eclipse. But the new moon day and the full moon day, they are there every month. So do we have the eclipses every month? No, we do not have it every month. When do we have it? We will have a clear view of it, picture of it. Okay. But before that, have a look at this. Yes, you can see over here, children. Okay, see over here, you can see 5 degrees angle. I told you when it intersects the revolutionary orbit makes an angle of 5 degrees with that of the earth. Twice it makes, yes, isn't it? So that is the 5 degree. The earth is here, this is the moon, so over here it is a 5 degree, and see, they are like this, isn't it? So they are in not in the same plane, isn't it? So if they are not in the same plane, they may not be, there may not be a any eclipse occurring, isn't it? Yes. So when do these eclipses occur? Okay, eclipses are of two types. Yes, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. First we learn about what are solar eclipse, and then when does an eclipse takes place. An eclipse takes place when on a new moon day or full moon day the sun, the moon and the earth fall in one line and in the same plane. Okay, now what is a solar eclipse? If the moon is between the sun and the earth, the shadow of the moon falls on the earth. The sun, the moon, and the earth are on the same plane and fall in one line. The place of the earth where the moon's shadow falls experiences a solar eclipse. Okay, so solar eclipse is takes place on a new moon day. So if the moon is in between the sun and the earth, the moon's shadow falls on the earth. Okay, yes, and they have to be in a straight line and fall in one line and in one plane. So the moon blocks the path of the sun's rays falling on the earth, isn't it? And as a result, the moon's shadow falls on the earth. So this falling of the shadow of the moon on the earth is called as the solar eclipse. The earth is being covered by the shadow of the moon, isn't it? So as you can see, the sun appears to be, we cannot see, some regions cannot see the sun clearly when the moon blocks the path of the earth and the sun. So that is called as a solar eclipse. So the place on the earth where the moon's shadow falls experiences solar eclipse. Fine. Now solar eclipse are of three types: total solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, and annular solar eclipse. Okay, we will learn them. Total solar eclipse and partial solar eclipse. The central position of the shadow is darker and the periphery is light. In the area of the dark shadow on the earth, the sun becomes completely invisible. This condition is called as total solar eclipse. Fine, you will understand it when I show you the diagram over here. At places where the shadow is lighter, the disk appears partially covered. This condition is described as partial solar eclipse. Fine, you will understand it over here. Fine. Now see, this is the sun over here, we have the moon over here, and we have the earth over here. Fine, they are in a straight line, they're falling in the same plane. Okay, now what happens is we are learning about total solar eclipse and partial solar eclipse. In the total solar eclipse, you can see the darker portion over here. See, this is your total solar eclipse. Yes, this is the darker portion, and only a beam of light you can see. This is total when the sun is totally covered by the shadow of the moon. Yes, so we can see this from the earth. And where the partial solar eclipse, this is the partial solar eclipse where you can see only a part of the sun is seen covered. Yes, so that is partial solar eclipse. And when does a solar eclipse takes place, whether it is total or partial? It takes place on a new moon day. Yes, on a new moon day means when the moon is not visible from the earth. This is the earth, as I told you, right? This is the earth, the moon is over here. Now from here, this portion you see is dark illuminated, it's not illuminated, so this is the new moon day. Yes, and so for the earth it is the new moon day, this part is facing the sun. Yes, so this part is not facing the sun, this part, the circle part which over here. So it's a new moon day. So when does the solar eclipse takes place? It takes place on a new moon day. Understood, children? Whether it's a total solar eclipse or a partial solar eclipse. Fine. Next, Annular solar eclipse. Okay, this is a very rare phenomenon. It doesn't occur no always. It is very rare. When the moon is in apogee position. What do you mean by apogee? When it is farther from this Earth's revolutionary orbit. Is farthest away from the Earth. A deep shadow of the moon is cast in the space and it does not reach the Earth. See, when it is far from the Earth, obviously a shadow when it is cast when the sun, moon and the Earth are in the same plane, fall in the same line. But the moon is farther away from the sun, from the Earth. So its shadow, it's not cast, does not reach the Earth. So from a very small region of the Earth, only an illuminated edge of the sun disk is seen in the form of a ring. This is called as annular solar eclipse and it is a very rare phenomena. See, yes, see, the moon is very far. We have the sun over here. Okay, we have the sun over here, the moon over here, and the earth here. Okay, so what are we learning about this annular solar eclipse? You can see only a ring it's seen. Yes, a ring of the sun is seen. That is the annular solar eclipse. When does it happen? When the moon is in its apogee position, its shadow does not reach the earth. That time you can see the annular solar eclipse, and it is a very rare type of a solar eclipse. Fine. And down over here we have a partial solar. Over here we have a partial solar eclipse, which I have already explained to you. Fine. Next. Okay, now we finished about solar eclipse, lunar eclipse. Okay, solar eclipse, when does it take place, children? It takes place on a new moon day. Lunar eclipse takes place on a full moon day. A lunar eclipse occurs when the moon enters the shadow of the earth while revolving around it. Lunar eclipse takes place on a full moon day. If the moon is totally hidden within the shadow, we see a total lunar eclipse. And if only a part of the moon is in the shadow, we see a partial lunar eclipse. You will understand it clearly over here. Okay, see over here, we have the sun. Okay, we have the sun, the earth and the moon over here. Okay, the moon over here. Fine. Now over here we have the total lunar eclipse and here we have the partial lunar eclipse. Fine. See, you can make it out over here. The moon is totally covered by the shadow of the earth, isn't it? The earth is blocking the the rays which is coming from the sun. Yes, so it is not falling on the moon. So when the moon is totally covered, it is called as the total lunar eclipse. And here it is the where it is partially covered, it is called as the partial lunar eclipse. Yes, so in a lunar eclipse, the position of the sun, moon and the earth is the sun, the earth and the moon. The earth is in between the sun and the moon in the lunar eclipse, whereas in the solar eclipse the moon is between the sun and the earth. Is it clear, children? Fine, very good. Now here we have the characteristics of solar and lunar eclipse. Yes, so solar eclipse occurs on a new moon day, but not every new moon day. Lunar eclipse, on the other hand, occurs on a full moon day, but not every full moon day. Solar eclipse occurs only when the sun, the moon and earth are in the same plane and fall in one line. Whereas lunar eclipse occurs only when the sun, moon and earth are in the same plane and fall in one line. The maximum duration of a total solar eclipse is 7 minutes and 20 seconds, whereas that of the lunar eclipse is 107 minutes. That is less than 2 hours, right? That is less than 2 hours lunar eclipse. So that is the duration. These are the characteristics of the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. Once again, we'll go through it. Solar eclipse takes place on a new moon day, but not every new moon day. Lunar eclipse takes place on a full moon day, but not every full moon day. Then when does it take place? It occurs only when the sun, moon and earth are in the same plane and fall in one line. And lunar eclipse occurs only when the sun, moon and earth are in the same plane and in one line. Maximum duration of the solar eclipse is 7 minutes 20 seconds. Maximum duration of the lunar eclipse is 107 minutes. Fine children, this is what we have learned it in our lesson today. There's one more thing I want to show you. Okay, occultation and transit. Now what is this? Like eclipses, some specific conditions occurs with reference to the sun and or the moon. These are called as occultation. Occultation occurs with reference to the moon, whereas transit is associated with the sun. Okay, so occultation and transit. So what some certain conditions which occur with reference to the moon, they are called as occultation, whether which occurs with the sun is called as transition. Now what is occultation? This is a typical event occurring in space. We know the moon revolves around the earth. Now, while doing so, it obscures a star or a planet, and that celestial body appears to hide behind the moon. This is called as occultation. The total solar eclipse is actually a kind of occultation. During this, the sun disk gets hidden completely because of the moon. Like we have discussed, see, what is it? When it obscures, mean it blocks the path of a star or a planet. The sun is a star, isn't it? The sun is a star. So when it blocks the path of the sun, that time, that condition is also called as an occultation. And during this, the sun disk gets completely hidden because of the moon. So the total solar eclipse is a kind of an occultation whereby the moon blocks the sun. Fine. This is regarding the moon. Now what about the sun? It is called as transit. You can see the small dot over here, children. Yes, over here, this dot, that is a planet, yes, which has come in the way of the sun. If an inner planet like Mercury or Venus comes in the between the line of the earth and the sun, a transit occurs. At that time, a small dot appears to move across the sun disk. Transit is a type of solar eclipse. Okay, so it may be any a planet, an inner planet, Mercury, Venus, Earth, all these, when they come in the line of the earth and the sun, inner planets, a transit occurs. So when they come in between the earth and the sun, you can see it like a dot which appears on the disk of the sun, and this is called as transit. And transit is a type of solar eclipse. So over here we can see the transit of Mercury. Fine. Next, here we have details. Again, it's like how it is the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. Now the phases of the moon during the solar eclipse, what phase it is? It is a full moon day, and for a solar eclipse it is a new moon day. The sequence in a lunar eclipse, it is the moon, the earth and the sun. Lunar eclipse is the moon, the earth and the sun. And in the solar eclipse it is the earth, the moon and the sun. It is the earth, the moon and the sun. Fine. Then types of eclipses: total and partial. Solar eclipses we have total, partial and annular. Fine. Then the maximum duration of a lunar eclipse is 107 minutes, and the maximum duration of a solar eclipse is 7 minutes 20 seconds. Fine children. Hope you would have understood this lesson. Yes, and understood what conditions are there up in the sky also, what the sun, the moon and the earth and all are doing. Many people assume these eclipses to be inauspicious. Yes, certain things are there which they feel like not to be done. It is not. These eclipses are like if they say that you should not go out of the house, this, that, all these. Some things people do tend to believe, these are all old sayings, but there is nothing to get afraid of the eclipses. Only thing you have to keep in mind, when you want to see an eclipse, you should have the proper way to see it. You're not supposed to view the eclipses through naked eyes. You should have those glasses which are available where you can view the eclipses. Yes, so that is it. I hope you would have understood this lesson. Yes, and if you can also go back through the video again and see in detail once again. Okay children, thank you for now. Bye, take care.